Hello, my beautiful IU. Thank you so much for joining me. It's wonderful to see you here. And in today's session, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about my journey and some practical tips about how I can lead you along with some tips that I found that work for me, and talk about it in the context of really what we're after, which is total transformation. So, without further ado, I want to get into that and talk about the body first. So, the three elements of transformation: body, mind, and spirit. And one of the things that really trips people up is well, it's kind of two aspects of the same thing. The main thing is we tend to compartmentalize our challenges in life. We think about them in terms of, I have this specific problem, and so I need to work on this specific method to solve the problem, right? The challenge with that is that most of our problems, most of our challenges are not one thing. They're related to a number of different things across that spectrum. Those three elements, right? Body, mind, spirit. People can buy into the body part easily. They may even think about the mind in terms of oppositional thinking or negative self-talk or a number of uh, philosophies that are espoused by the popular self-help movement or religions or philosophies in general. But when we get to spirit, it gets a little murkier for a lot of people. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But keep in mind those three things, okay? Body, mind, and spirit. And we can talk about the elements of that in the context of total transformation for your health. And when I say health, I mean all of your health, not just your body, right? Your body's a big part of it, but all of your health. So to get there, the first thing I want to talk about in terms of a program, and when you work with me, this is kind of the wheel that we go through, if you will, across these three elements, is unconscious eating. Now, what do I mean by unconscious eating? A lot of people try to do the best they can and eat healthy, whether you choose to be, a carnivore or vegan or vegetarian. I'm not here to judge you. And there's lots of science out there that you can go look at that espouses different ways to actually eat. What I'm talking about is unconsciously eating where it's not part of your lifestyle. It's just something that you have to do. And when you make it part of your lifestyle, it changes the game completely. I'm going to show you a picture. This is me at over 400 pounds a few years ago. And you can see I'm sitting there. I'm not very happy. And I've got a cane. And that was when I was still having trouble getting around. And I was still in terrible pain, debilitating chronic pain from a back injury, from a car accident. I had 12 discs on my back that were either herniated or otherwise injured. And back then, I wasn't tuned in to any of the things that I'm going to talk about with you today, obviously. But this is me now. You can see me now on camera, but this is me now 115 pounds lighter and having reversed a number of different health conditions that I was dealing with back then. Not to mention the walking, the weight. I was pre-diabetic. My levels, cholesterol, vitamin D, vitamin B, A1C, lots of things were out. They were off, totally off. And I struggled and suffered for years and years to try to correct these things. Once I figured out that Western medicine, in my case, for the weight loss and for the chronic pain really weren't going to help me. They weren't going to break me out of the cycle I was in where I couldn't move because I was in too much pain. And when you don't move, you gain weight. When you're not eating the right things, you gain weight, right? A lot of us can relate. We get locked in these cycles and we don't see any way out. So, getting back to unconscious eating, what changed the game for me, I had tried different things. I was actually buying what I thought was healthy food, but I wasn't eating raw. I was eating processed plant food that came frozen. It had preservatives in it. It had additives in it. And what I started realizing was that not only should I eat more raw, and please don't take this as, if you don't eat this way, you're bad. Not at all. These are things that you can aspire to and incorporate into your daily life. But I started eating more raw, and then when I was exposed to the information in Dr. Alberto Villoldo's book, Grow a New Body, he talked about eating for your gut and eating for your brain. And I'd never heard anybody talk about that before. You hear about keto, you hear about paleo, you hear about, vegetarian, pescatarian, vegan, those types of things. But eating for your gut, I've heard about taking probiotics, to make your gut healthier because your gut health is important, obviously. I knew that, but I didn't really understand eating for your gut and eating for your brain was the other part of it. What? Eating for your brain? How does that work? Right? So I'm going to get into that. So eating for your gut, what does that mean? Well, if you've ever had antibiotics, and who hasn't, right? Whether it was from an infection or an injury or what have you, antibiotics, especially broad spectrum antibiotics, really take a toll on your gut health. Your gut is this ecosystem of 10 different layers of active organisms. And when you take, depending on what the antibiotics are, they will affect multiple levels within your gut. So affect meaning kill, die off, right? And then there's this opportunistic growth that happens in your gut, a parasitic growth called candida. Many of you have heard of that. Candida can be really nasty because it takes over or can take over in your gut and take a lot of the nutrition away from what you're eating. And it's really, really hard to get rid of. I mean, really hard. There are certain things that you can do to eat differently that will help tamp it down, sort of keep it under control. But when I was researching the science and reading Grow a New Body, there are really only two ways to actually get rid of it. One of them is drugs. It's Western medicine based, but it kills everything in your gut, and there's no guarantee it won't come back. So it's not really sustainable, and it's very traumatic on your body, right? So the better way is this substance called Aspergillosis, and it grows on the surface of fruit. And the indigenous people have in the Andes have been eating this way. They figured out how to take this stuff, scrape it off, and put it in their food, and they cook their quinoa with it. And what it does is it breaks down sugar, and it also bonds with candida. Candida thinks it's food, but it turns the candida inert, makes it inactive. So your body eliminates it naturally. So the cool thing about it is after you take it for a little while, maybe a week or two, it gets rid of the candida. And then if you ever have to take antibiotics, it comes back. You can just do it again. It's very gentle, just like something you eat, right? So that's part of eating for your gut, but that's like the interventional part, getting rid of the candida, because otherwise, I mean, people spend hundreds of millions, if not billions, on probiotics, thinking they're doing something good for themselves. But if they have an infestation of candida and they're taking probiotics, 98% of what they're taking is they may as well just flush it in the toilet because it's not doing anything. Candida is either blocking it or taking it itself as food. So the Aspergillosis eliminates that whole dynamic. and it gets you on a level playing field, at least, where the candida is not involved. Now you can look at your gut health as, okay, what do I eat to rebuild my gut? And the body is an amazing dynamic system. The more positive fuel that you give it, and treating food as medicine, right? Everything that you put in your mouth, just think of it as medicine. It's not just fuel for your body. So the better you eat with that mindset, the more that your gut will repair itself. But there are also some things that you can do to supplement that repair, right? And get your gut to be super healthy. And many of us know the benefits of that, right? Your immune system becomes exuberantly healthy. So you avoid a lot of the seasonal sicknesses, a lot of the colds and flus and things that go around. And if you do get it, it's fast. You go through it in hours or a day instead of weeks, like some of us have struggled with. It even affects your allergies. If you have seasonal allergies or really bad reactions to things, it'll tend to tamp that down. So there's a lot of benefit to doing that. When we go through my program, that's the kind of things that I'll lead you through is all of the tips and tricks to make your gut exuberantly healthy. So the other cornerstone of this is brain health, right? Eating for your brain. What does that mean, right? So one of the things that people don't realize is that we actually have multiple brains. We have a lower brain, an operating area in our brains. I'm not going to go into the science. We'll go into that in the program, and there's plenty of ways you can look this up. But the primate brain or the mammal brain loves sugar. So the more you eat take in that becomes sugar. I'm not even talking about processed sugar. I'm talking about things that turn into sugar in your bloodstream. Carbohydrates like white potatoes, for example. Those are really high on the glycemic index scale. And I'm not saying carbohydrates are bad. Everything in balance. You need carbohydrates, right? But if you're constantly eating the same thing, like white potatoes or French fries, just one example, right? And it's turning to sugar in your body, and you're feeding your brain with it. Here's what happens. So what is your lower brain, your primate brain, your reptile brain in charge of? Fight, flight, and reproduction. So that's what you're giving fuel to. If you're having a tough time in your life and you're constantly feeding your lower brain sugar, guess what? You're going to feel like you're trapped, like an animal in a cage or backed into a corner. That's what your brain is telling you. You need to fight or flight, or fight or run or freeze. That's the new one. Fight, flight, or freeze. So that obviously is not a good state of being to do anything proactive or transformational. But the brain is an amazing thing. It can also run on fat. Now, what kind of fat? Well, it'll run on lots of kinds of fat, whether it's animal fat or vegetable fat, plant fat, right? So that's up to you. There's lots of reasons why you want it to be mostly or all plant fat, which we can go into. But when you feed your brain fat, it activates the midbrain and the higher brain, especially the neocortex. That's what a lot of scientists, research scientists, call the God brain. That's where your higher thinking happens. In prior sessions, we talked about engaging the witness. How can you engage the witness if you're in fight or flight mode all the time? Right? It's really hard. But if you're constantly stimulating your neocortex, your higher brain, it's a lot easier. Meditation, samadhi experiences, connection to source, to God, those all come from the higher brain. It's been measured many times over many years, lots of experimentation. Look at the work of Dean Radin in particular, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He's done tons of research in this area. So, by the way, I didn't mention up front, but if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Whatever platform you're on, whether it's YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, you should be able to interact with me here. Okay. So, what about ketosis? We hear a lot about that as being something that you should incorporate in your diet, and you should. But the problem is the way people go about it. They do it as kind of an intervention, and it's really good because it gets you into fat burning mode. That's why people do it, right? They want to lose weight, what have you. The problem with the approach is treating it like an intervention and not as a lifestyle. Ketosis is a powerful tool, but how you achieve it and how you sustain it and what you're eating to achieve it are super important, right? I think people are kind of moving past this notion that they can eat like all animal protein or all animal fat, go into ketosis, and good things will happen. Um, the science is actually showing that that's a short term intervention, and it actually can age your cells when you do that too often. There are these little things on your cells called telomeres, and they're in charge of cellular replication. And when your telomeres get shorter and shorter as you age, then your cells that get replicated aren't as good as the ones that were there before, right? And ketosis with animal products can actually shorten those telomeres and make it harder to replicate healthy cells. So keep that in mind. How you do it and doing it sustainably are super important. And the other thing that people don't really take on board is the notion of autophagy. Now, this is another one of those game changers for me when I learned what this actually was. Autophagy is the process whereby your cells can dump their toxins. So imagine you have a bunch of cells that are carrying toxins and not really working that well. And that would be reflected in your life as, having no energy. Maybe your libido is terrible. You just don't have a lust for life. That's because one of the reasons is because you're carrying all this toxic stuff in your body. Autophagy is the process by which your cells, your mitochondria in particular, the engine in your cells, can get rid of all the toxins. Guess what happens when you don't go into autophagy? You carry all that stuff like luggage, just never goes away. And autophagy never kicks in unless what? You're hungry. People don't allow themselves to be hungry. They look at being hungry as like a disease condition. Oh, I'm hungry. I need to do something about it. Yeah, you do eventually, in mindfully. You need to make sure that you're not hungry all the time. However, autophagy only kicks in when you're hungry. So this is where the notion of fasting comes in. And there's lots of different ways to fast, right? But a part of the program, what I'll show you is a lifestyle fast where you fast some every day, little fasts. And you can do, seasonal fasting too, where it's a little more dramatic, where you really get down to the core of the cell and you dump absolutely everything. But autophagy allows the cells to dump the luggage and regenerate in a much more healthy way. And that's what regenerates your body. That's what reverses disease conditions. You saw I'll bring up the old picture of me again. This version of me was not going through autophagy. This guy was never hungry, never allowed himself to be hungry. And it's not necessarily that I overate in terms of portions, but I wasn't moving and I wasn't eating the right things. And I definitely didn't have any energy or any lust for life. This guy was depressive. This guy considered suicide when it didn't look like there was any hope on the horizon for ending the pain, right? That's what happens. You get hopeless. So autophagy is huge. It's key. And when you are regularly going into autophagy and you're eating the right things, now I've become, we talked about in previous sessions, we talked about mindful eating and the body dialogue method. Using that method, and your mileage may vary, and there's no judgment, at least not from me, but using all these techniques together, what they led me to a few months ago now was becoming vegan, because I was constantly asking my body, what should you eat? What should I eat? Should I eat this? I pick something up. Should I eat this? And I would get a real quick yes, no, like why I took you through that exercise, right? Your body will tell you unequivocally, once you learn how to tune in, what you should eat, even when you should eat. Should I eat now? Should I eat this? And I believe that's not only the spiritual and mindful component, but what the latest research has found is there are actually brain cells in your gut. Now, it's a simple brain, right? And I think that accounts for the quick answer, yes, no, right? You get it immediately. You don't have to think about it. Your gut doesn't think in the way that our higher brain does, but it will give you an answer. It knows what you should eat. And so that's what led me to becoming a vegan. And I test it. I'm not one of these militant vegans that believes that anybody who's not vegan is a horrible person. I love the aspect of the animal cruelty part of it because our food system, as you know, is horribly broken. And there's a lot of cruelty built into it. I'm not going to argue about that. It's true. Right. So it's nice to be around animals and not feel like a hypocrite, but I don't do that so I could judge other people. I mean, that's that's a road that leads nowhere. Right. But being vegan allows me to focus on eating healthy plant fat, plant-based protein, and essentially I eat more than I can actually, or excuse me, that's the wrong way to say it. I used to have to focus on portion control. And this program isn't necessarily about weight loss, it's about balance, right? My result, because I was so overweight, is that I've been losing weight like crazy, right? But it's because I've been focusing on balance and healing and regenerating. This regenerative notion is key to this whole thing, right? But when I found once I went vegan, I didn't need as much food in terms of portions. And I still catch myself making portions that are too big and I can't eat it all. And so I'm constantly having to be mindful and dial back what I'm eating. And as you know, when you're kind of cooking for one, it's difficult sometimes with the portion control. So I make it more of a community event now where I invite everybody around me to try what I'm eating. And the returns are good. They're liking what I'm making. So I've said it before online, and I'll say it here, that food prep and mindful cooking, as well as mindful eating, is a profound act of self-love. There's very few things that you can do. Exercise is another one, being in nature, but exercise, again, mindfully, doing the right things the right way, learning how to move correctly so that you're in tune with what your body needs, not what somebody else is telling you or what you think you need. Find out what you really need, kind of in all things in life. But all of those things together are super important. But the mindful component is the most important. Really being in communication with your body, your mind, and your higher self so that they're all kind of in sync and they're telling you, here's what you need to do. It's amazing. It's a transformational experience that you can actually do this. Everybody can do this. This is your divine right, I believe. And one of the reasons we were put here on earth is to figure this stuff out, is connect to these different aspects of ourselves so that we can find that road and that state of exuberant health. And that's one of my 3 E's. I call it exuberant health, endless vitality, and ever-present joy. Who doesn't want that, right? That's aspirational, but I'll tell you, the more that you embody the elements of those things, the more it will become reality. And it's not necessarily about the seeking. We're so taught to go seek things, go achieve things, right? But if we embody those things a little bit every day, it becomes habit. The more we do it, the better it works. And we can sit with it and we can experience it in the moment. That's where the mindful part comes in, right? So all of these things, I know I shared a lot, but I hope that I made it concrete and actionable And my call to action for you is take some of the things I said on board and research it for yourself. Look at the latest food science in particular. If you've got a scientific mind or you're really interested in looking for the latest articles from the Mayo Clinic, I invite you to do that. It's not definitive by any means. The science is still very active, and there are a lot of clinical trials going on and a lot of longitudinal studies going on about, the long-term effects of things like ketosis and different diet styles and things like that. But you'll know when something resonates with you. That sounds right. That feels right. I feel it in my heart, right? You have a truth detector. You are a truth detector. You'll know. And you can bring that on board and really change your life. Now, if you want somebody who's gone through it, not only the weight loss, but reversing significant health issues. For me, it was chronic pain. And then, all the other stuff. I shouldn't discount the pre-diabetic and depression and all the other things by treating food as medicine. And I made a lot of mistakes and I learned from them. And I can help you avoid some of those mistakes. Some of them you got to make on your own. That's just the way life works, right? But I can help you avoid some of them for sure. And I would love to work with you. So if you would like to learn more about this, I call it the Mind, Body, Spirit Total Transformation Program. If you'd like to learn more about it, just DM me on whatever platform you're seeing this on, and we can talk about it. No obligation, just figure out if this is going to work for you. And if it does, if it resonates, then, we'll work together. If not, we'll part friends, and I'll have counted myself lucky to have met you, because I believe Spirit puts us all on each other's path for a reason. And if you don't end up working with me, maybe I'll give you a little bit of information that helps you on your path. And that's what I'm here for. So I'm going to check over here to see if we have anything going on with chat or questions. Looks like Dondi is busily posting, emphasizing points for the video, and that's great. If you're not able to ask questions, I apologize. I'm trying out a new platform called StreamYard, and it's possible that I might not have the right things turned on, but I'll learn from it. You can always, most of the people watching this are probably in my Facebook group, the Shaman Circle. You can give me feedback there and let me know if you weren't able to either come on or ask questions or what have you, and we'll make sure that it comes up correctly the next time. So I want to tell you that I feel so honored to bring this information to you and so blessed. This is my mission, and I love you, and I'm glad you're in my circle. And I hope that something I said triggers the next step on your transformational path. And with that, my friends, I'm ending the session, and I'd love to hear from you. Anything, feedback, connection, asking to work with me, not whatever. If I brought up something that you don't agree with, I want to hear that too. So I'll leave you with that. Have a great day. And I hope every day is a great day.